What if the deepest, like, most sacred spiritual texts in human history weren't actually handed down from the heavens?
Oh.
Like, what if they were drafted in the equivalent of an ancient corporate boardroom, designed specifically to just keep you well-behaved?
I mean, it is a premise that instantly pulls the floorboards right out from under you.
Yeah.
You go into a story expecting the mystical
Yeah.
and the transcendent,
Yeah.
and instead you find project management.
Yeah.
And sociological engineering. It's wild.
We usually think of the foundational structures of our world, like our deepest moral codes, our oldest traditions, as this untouchable bedrock, something forged by time or, divine intervention.
Right. You want to find magic when you dig deep enough.
Exactly. But today, we are stripping away that mystical bedrock. We are doing a special literary review session for a 2025 fiction novel that takes that exact premise and it runs with it. We're diving into When God Was Blueprint by BernsPen.
And this book is incredibly ambitious. It operates on these two distinct frequencies, I'd say. It functions as a deeply haunting theological meditation, really exploring the sociology of belief. But then it wraps that whole exploration inside the engine of a pulse-pounding conspiracy thriller.
The vibe of this book is just phenomenal. It's this high-stakes intellectual exploration that leaves you feeling genuinely unsettled.
Very unsettled.
Right. So our goal for this deep dive today is to unpack these profound philosophical themes and analyze the absolute masterclass intention building the author pulls off. And don't worry, we're doing all of this without giving away the ending.
No spoilers here.
Nope. You are going to want to experience the climax for yourself. So let's start by dropping right into the world of our protagonist, Dr. Elaine Mendoza. She's a paleographer at St. Jude's University.
And for those who might not be familiar with the day-to-day reality of paleography, it is the study of ancient writing systems.
Yeah, it's intense.
It involves deciphering, dating, verifying historical manuscripts. It is painstaking, highly analytical work. And BernsPen establishes Elaine's character by heavily contrasting the environments she inhabits.
The atmosphere is just so immersive. Like, you have her personal office on the third floor of the library, which is described with this very specific sensory richness.
Oh, the smells. Yeah.
Right. It smells like a blend of aged paper, leather bindings, and a whisper of dry rot. It's the sanctuary of organic history. The dust motes dance in the sunlight. It really feels like a place where humanity's memory is kept warm.
Which serves as the perfect psychological counterweight to where the actual inciting incident takes place.
Yes. The lab.
Right, the university's state-of-the-art archival lab. When Elaine moves into the lab, the environment becomes clinically detached. You have humming humidifiers, harsh fluorescent lights, air purifiers.
She's wearing those blue nitrile conservator's gloves.
Exactly. The warmth of history is replaced by the sterile environment of an autopsy room.
And an autopsy is basically exactly what she ends up performing. So Father Michael, he's the dean of theology. He brings her a newly unearthed collection of Coptic manuscripts.
And he is thrilled about this.
Oh, he's over the moon. These were found in a previously unknown monastic library in the Fayum Oasis in Egypt. Coptic texts from this region are usually a goldmine for early Christian history.
Right, so Father Michael is expecting standard, beautiful devotional texts, a window into the pure early faith.
Yeah. And Elaine approaches the artifacts with her usual dispassionate routine. She expects to find homilies, maybe letters documenting harvest yields.
Calendars of fasting days.
Exactly. The mundane administrative records of early ascetic life. But instead, tucked inside a remarkably well-preserved leather cover, she finds something that basically sucks the oxygen out of the room.
It really does.
She finds a rough draft.
And I have to say, in the field of paleography, finding a rough draft of a sacred text is the anomaly of all anomalies.
It just doesn't happen.
Never. Sacred texts, historically, are presented as received wisdom. They are polished, finalized, canonical. You don't find the author's deleted scenes.
Right, but it's a fragment of a very famous, universally recognized parable, but the language is completely clunky.
So
it includes this highly specific, mundane detail that was entirely scrubbed from the final canonical versions that, billions of people know today.
yeah, it looks completely retrofitted.
It reads like someone took a boring, everyday anecdote and reverse engineered a spiritual lesson onto it. And this thread leads her to uncover the core of the novel's mystery. It's a document she translates and begins calling the ledger.
The ledger is essentially a personal journal, authored by an anonymous figure marked only by a peculiar symbol. It's an eye enclosed in a radiating circle.
Creepy.
Very. And Elaine dubs this figure the Demiurge. And that specific name choice by the author is brilliant.
Oh, completely.
Because in Platonic and later Gnostic philosophy, the Demiurge isn't the supreme, unknowable god. The Demiurge is an artisan, like a craftsman, a lower entity who physically built the flawed material universe.
The name fits perfectly because the ledger isn't a book of mystical revelations. It's a corporate workshop for engineering a religion. The Demiurge outlines the conscious, strategic decisions made to construct a belief system from the ground up. It is pure, unfiltered pragmatism.
The author pulls absolutely no punches here.
Okay.
The text explicitly outlines the mechanisms of narrative architecture. They aren't waiting for divine inspiration. They're basically doing market research on how to build a messiah.
The specific bullet points from the ledger are staggering to read. I mean, Elaine is translating this ancient text, and she finds notes like, miracle of the fish expand scale, imply divine abundance for all, not just the chosen few.
Wow.
Or there are margin notes about genealogies, explicitly stating that the lineage must be linked to established royal lines to ensure political legitimacy.
Verify historical consensus.
Yes, my mind was blown.
My favorite detail is the debate over the concept of absolute poverty. One faction within this ancient focus group wants the new religion to demand strict ascetic poverty.
Right.
But the Demiurge writes that they need to pivot. They decide to reframe the core teaching to focus on generosity from abundance rather than demanding the relinquishment of all worldly goods.
Because they needed to appeal to the merchant class. The Demiurge literally writes, the flock must be united, the narrative must hold them all. Religions need infrastructure, and infrastructure requires funding.
It's incredibly cynical.
But brilliantly logical.
It forces you to look at how deeply unsettling it is to apply the language of modern marketing, like concepts like narrative cohesion and target audiences, to the creation of the sacred. The psychological impact on Elaine is devastating. It grounds the most profound, transcended concepts of human civilization in an industrial reality.
Think of it this way. Imagine you are an archaeologist who has dedicated your whole life to studying a majestic ancient cathedral. You revere its beauty, its stained glass, its echoing acoustics.
Sure.
But one day, you dig a little deeper beneath the altar, and instead of finding sacred bedrock, you find the discarded scaffolding. You find crumpled up, flawed blueprints. You find the ancient equivalents of empty coffee cups and time cards left behind by a human construction crew.
It ruins it.
Right, seeing the tools of creation shatters the illusion of the magic.
And that cognitive dissonance is exactly what Elaine is experiencing. The cathedral, meaning the moral framework of society, is still standing, and it's still functional. But the awe of its origin is dead.
Yeah.
You realize the grand architecture wasn't magically willed into existence. It was hammered together by people worrying about budgets and demographics.
So that establishes what she finds. But the novel doesn't just rest on the shock value of that discovery. It pivots beautifully into the why. Why would someone engineer belief on a global scale?
Which brings us to the chapter titled The Purpose of the Paradox.
Yes, which completely shifts the intellectual stakes of the story.
Because BernsPen makes a crucial narrative choice here. The Demiurge is not a cartoon villain.
Not at all.
The ledger doesn't read like the diary of a megalomaniac trying to enslave the world for his own amusement.
His justification is utilitarian. It is a chillingly rational sociology thesis. The Demiurge looks at humanity and concludes that without a unifying narrative, without an ironclad shared structure of meaning, we naturally descend into chaos.
Right. Pure logic and empirical truth, in his view, just aren't enough to sustain a society. He essentially views human nature as inherently fragile and fragmented. Left unguided, people succumb to tribal infighting or paralyzing nihilism.
Yeah, they need a shared identity.
Exactly. They require the unwavering promise of ultimate justice to deter them from their worst impulses. He isn't creating a religion to control people. He's creating a moral algorithm to save them from themselves.
The book dives into how they explicitly engineered the Book of Genesis to optimize this algorithm. It reads like meeting minutes. They debate the act of creation itself.
I love this part.
Should the universe be created in an instant? They vote no. They decide on a phased creation over several days. Why? Because a phased creation implies a process, a hierarchy of value, and a structural rhythm that human societies can mirror, like resting on the seventh day to establish labor norms and social cohesion.
And look at how they design the state of primordial humanity. They actually debate whether humans should be created inherently flawed or created innocent and then suffer a fall.
Oh, the fall, yeah.
They choose the narrative of innocence, followed by a fall, because it provides a vastly superior psychological framework. It establishes a clear moral lesson. personal culpability, and a desperately needed path to repentance.
They even reverse engineered the serpent. They needed an external source of temptation to preserve the creator's benevolence while still ensuring human responsibility for the fall. It's narrative design intended to install a psychological operating system into millions of people.
And this leads to what the book calls the architect's dilemma. The Demiurge experiences profound private agony over his work.
He feels so guilty.
He does. He knows the solace he is designing is built entirely on artifice. He is tormented by the realization that he is guiding humanity through the darkness with a lamp fueled by human oil, not divine fire.
His ultimate fear, which is incredibly prescient, by the way, is that his beautifully designed tools of salvation will eventually be co-opted. That the moral structure meant to protect humanity will be twisted by future generations into an instrument of tyranny.
He understands the terrifying power of the technology he is unleashing. Once the myth takes root, he can no longer control how the believers wield it.
Okay, I have to jump in here because as I was reading this section, I found myself actively arguing with Elaine's perspective. I want to throw this back to you.
All right, let's hear it.
We are conditioned by thrillers to root for the protagonist, to uncover the truth and broadcast it to the world. But look at what the Demiurge actually accomplished. He built a moral algorithm that worked. It fostered civilization, art, charity, and social cohesion for centuries.
Well, that's true.
So if pure, cold truth just leads to a fragmented, nihilistic society, is Elaine actually the villain here? Is exposing this beautifully engineered lie a supreme act of arrogance?
Well, that is the exact trap the author sets for the reader.
Yeah.
You are forced to confront the utility of myth. The sociological reality is that shared fictions, whether they are religious texts, human rights frameworks, or even the concept of money, are what allow large groups of strangers to cooperate.
Yeah.
If you pull the foundational myth out from under a society, you risk total collapse.
Right. If you are Elaine, knowing this truth will strip away the moral compass and the deepest comfort of billions of people. Who are you to take that away just to satisfy your own academic integrity?
The book demands that we weigh the cold, isolating nature of empirical truth against the warm, unifying power of a shared fiction. The Demiurge chose to build the fiction for the greater good. Elaine feels compelled to dismantle it for the sake of authenticity. Both positions carry an immense, terrifying burden of responsibility.
That philosophical tension is exactly what makes the transition into the physical thriller elements so compelling. Because this intellectual dilemma doesn't just stay trapped in a dusty library. The abstract threat becomes visceral, and we are introduced to the Immutable Accord.
The unseen architects.
Yeah.
The ancient, highly resourced secret society dedicated to protecting the Demiurge's blueprint from being exposed. They are the custodians of the lie.
And you have to see how the author handles this escalation. It is a masterclass in building tension.
Oh, absolutely.
This isn't an action movie. There are no car chases, no explosions, no hitmen kicking down doors. The author relies entirely on subtle psychological warfare. It is the terror of having the mundane aspects of your life weaponized against you.
They don't attack her physically, they dismantle her reality, they attack her sense of safety and her sanity.
Let's talk about the specific mechanics of this paranoia because it is brilliant. Elaine starts noticing tiny anomalies. An antique coin, completely anachronistic and out of place, left resting perfectly balanced on the handle of her locked office door.
Sitting there.
Yeah. It's not a threat of violence, it's a violation of physics. It's a message that says, your locks mean nothing, we can access your sanctuary.
Then they systematically strip away her modern infrastructure. Her bank accounts freeze due to, quote, unresolvable administrative errors. Her academic credentials are suddenly questioned by anonymous review boards.
It's maddening.
A burner phone she buys rings at 3 a.m. with nothing but dead air.
The digital invasion is what really got to me. She opens her encrypted laptop, a device she considers totally secure, and the login background has been changed.
Oh, this part.
It's no longer the default image. It's a grainy, high-resolution photograph of her own apartment window taken from the street outside with her visible inside.
It's the ultimate gaslighting. They are demonstrating omnipresence. They aren't just watching her bane. They occupy the negative space around her.
But the defining moment of the thriller, the part that genuinely made my skin crawl, was the paper crane.
That scene is a perfect encapsulation of their psychological tactics.
Okay, so she comes home to her apartment. She locks the deadbolts, engages the chain, turns on the alarm. She thinks she has finally created a barrier between herself and the Accord.
She's safe, supposedly.
Right. She hears a faint rustle at the door. She looks through the peephole. The hallway is completely empty, but when she slowly opens the door, sitting perfectly centered on her welcome mat, is a single folded paper crane.
So creepy.
And it's not made of normal origami paper. It's folded from a page torn out of an academic journal. Specifically, it's an article that Elaine herself authored and published years ago.
The symbolism there is devastating. They are taking her intellect, her life's work, the very foundation of her identity as a scholar, and showing her that to them, it is nothing more than scrap paper to be folded up and left on the floor. It is an assertion of absolute dominance over her academic reality.
It makes her feel entirely microscopic. And this psychological dismantling culminates in a confrontation with a character named Dr. Aris Delgado. He is the face of the Accord.
Yeah, Delgado.
He's this impeccably tailored, smooth-talking academic who pulls up next to her in an unmarked sedan. And true to their methods, he doesn't pull a weapon on her. He offers her a golden cage.
He offers her everything she has ever strived for in her career. He promises the full restoration of her tenure, a prestigious endowed chair at the university of her choice, endless, unquestioned research funding, and complete autonomy.
A dream, really.
The only condition is that she stops her inquiries regarding the Fayum manuscripts and quietly recatalogues the ledger as a minor, inconsequential historical anomaly.
And the most terrifying part of this confrontation is that Delgado wraps this extortion in the exact same utilitarian logic that the Demiurge used centuries ago. He looks at her and says, "The world is fragile. Some truths are simply too heavy for it to bear."
Wow.
He frames their suppression of the truth not as an evil act of control, but as an act of benevolent pragmatism.
Which makes the Accord infinitely more dangerous than a standard villain. They don't believe they are the bad guys. They believe they are the silent guardians saving human civilization from tearing itself apart.
The way I conceptualize the Immutable Accord is by looking at them like a societal immune system.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
From their perspective, human civilization is the host body. The ledger is the vital code that keeps the organs functioning. Elaine isn't a hero in their eyes. She is a pathogen. She is a rogue virus, threatening to induce a fatal autoimmune response in the host. And the Accord. They are just the white blood cells. There are antibodies neutralizing a threat to the organism's survival.
That analogy perfectly captures the terrifyingly logical nature of their organization. And it highlights what BernsPen focuses on for the emotional climax of the novel. The true horror isn't just that Elaine is being hunted. The true horror is the staggering cost of knowing.
The absolute crushing isolation.
Yes, she is walking through the vibrant streets of her city, surrounded by millions of people who find genuine, heartfelt comfort, meaning, and moral direction in these ancient stories.
Yeah.
They build their lives, their families, their charities around this blueprint.
Yeah.
And she is completely alone among them, carrying a secret that would shatter their reality into a million pieces. The psychological weight of that burden is palpable on every single page.
Yeah.
You feel her suffocating under the knowledge.
It is incredibly intense. Now, as we promised at the beginning, we are absolutely not going to reveal what choice Elaine makes.
Our lips are sealed.
We are not going to tell you if she accepts Delgado's golden cage or if she attempts a final gambit to expose the Accord. The ending is a masterstroke that you need to experience firsthand.
The conclusion forces you to reevaluate every single assumption you made during the first half of the book. It's brilliant.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into When God Was Blueprint, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought. Something to mull over the next time you find yourself defending a deeply held belief. Think about the foundational stories that give your own life meaning, structure, and a sense of justice.
Important to think about.
This applies whether your worldview is deeply spiritual or entirely secular. We all have organizing myths.
We all rely on narratives to make sense of the chaos.
Exactly. Now imagine if you discovered with absolute, undeniable proof that those foundational stories were brilliantly crafted fictions. Fictions designed by an ancient architect purely for your psychological well-being, engineered to keep society functioning smoothly.
The big question.
Would you actually want to know the truth? Or would you choose the comfort, the community, and the safety of the blueprint?
It is the ultimate question of the human condition. Does the utility of peace outweigh the value of truth?
That is the genius of what BernsPen has accomplished here. I cannot state this passionately enough. When God a Blueprint is an absolute triumph of a thriller, the pacing, the emotional stakes, the massive philosophical questions it forces you to confront it is an intellectual masterclass.
It truly earns the title of the must-read book of the season.
The book is available right now. You need to go grab a copy immediately and experience this breathtaking narrative for yourself.
Highly recommend it.
And while you are adding to your library, you should absolutely check out the author's other fascinating work, The Antichrist. In The Paradox of Faith, which explores another brilliant inversion of everything we think we know about history and belief system.
Both of those belong at the very top of your reading list.
Because sometimes, when you dig beneath the majestic cathedral of human society, finding the scaffolding doesn't just shatter the illusion, it shows you exactly how the magic trick was done. And that is a secret worth uncovering.